Welcome, beautiful people. My name is Pauline, I'm 25 and I'm originally from Germany, and I have been living in the US, studying here at a university for the past 5 years, which is kind of crazy since it doesn't feel that long. And I decided to make this channel because I feel like my experiences with living and studying abroad might be helpful for other people who are maybe thinking about studying abroad, living abroad, or all of those kind of things. And I will also mention that before I went to university here in the US, I was also an international exchange student at a US high school for a year. So I think those experiences might also be very useful for you guys who are interested in maybe studying abroad in high school in any form or capacity. So I'm happy that you're here, and I just really hope that I can help people with what I have learned over the last years. And if this channel can only be helpful for one person, that will already be super awesome for me. And I just hope that you stick around as I figure out this YouTube thing. And for today's video, I actually thought, why not share how I came to the US? So since I was an international exchange student, as I mentioned before, I've spent a lot of time in the US, and it's quite a long story. So I'm thinking about making this two parts. So the first part that I will be doing now will be on my journey to being an exchange student in high school, and then the second part will talk to my journey to going to college in the US for both a bachelor's degree and a graduate degree. I'm currently working on finishing up my master's degree in the next couple of months, which is very exciting. So there will be two videos because I thought this would be way too long for one and nobody wants to sit through that. So let's get right into the story of how I came to the US as an exchange student. It will probably be a hot minute, so grab something to snack on or a drink right now and settle in. How did I become an exchange student at a high school? Let's go back all the way to 2014. So it's been almost 10 years since I realized I wanted to go abroad, which is crazy to me. It's a decade, oh God. So in 2014, I had two friends, very lovely people, and those were going abroad. So they came to me one day and were like, guess what, Pauline? I'm going abroad to the US. I'm gonna go to high school. It's gonna be High School Musical and it's gonna be amazing. And I was like, oh, that's so awesome, like good for you, And I got interested because my family and I, we actually had traveled since I was a child to the US quite frequently. So I had been in the US, like many times, and was like, oh, that's so awesome that you're going abroad and going to high school there. I talked to them a lot about their process and journey about going abroad before they left, and I got just very, very interested. And then when they were abroad, I saw a lot of their social media stuff. So they had a lot of Snapchat stories and Instagram posts, and I was just living for it because it looked to me like they were living like some sort of like hybrid of like High School Musical and Camp Rock. It just looked so awesome. They made cool American high school friends, and they were being cheerleaders and in I think softball and track and field, and they were going to sleepovers and eating Reese's, which by the way, Reese's are amazing, love them. And so they were having a great time, and I was just living vicariously through them. And I started to think, maybe I want to go abroad too. So in the summer of 2014, or no, I think it was fall 2014, I approached my parents and was like, how do you feel about me going abroad? And my parents were like, are you sure, like being gone from home for a long time, that seems very like scary and that kind of thing. But they were very supportive. Were like, hey, if you really want to do it, like, we are able to help you with that. Like, we can support you with this, and basically be able to afford that you can go abroad, because obviously it doesn't come for free. You can't go abroad for free unless I guess you get a scholarship, which one of my friends did. So she did technically kind of go to abroad for free. I know that I'm extremely privileged to have gone abroad both for high school and also have studied here in college in the US. I know that I'm privileged, and I'm so grateful because I wouldn't be the person I am today without those experiences. But back to the story. So my parents were fine with me going and they were able to give me the opportunity. And so I ended up going abroad with an organization back in Germany. They are called camps. I can link them down below in case you're a German and you're thinking you might want to study abroad. They also help people who, want to go to abroad to Australia or New Zealand and many other countries. They don't just do like US high school experiences. So check them out if you're interested. But yeah, so I applied to them because you had to apply to that organization. And then you had an interview with them where they asked you like, why do you want to go abroad? And like, what are you hoping to get out of your experience abroad? And so I did all that. And after that interview, they also did a little English test to see how my English was at the time, which was, it was what it was. It was fine. So after that, they were like, yes, we can help you go abroad. Do we think you would be a good fit for our organization? And so I ended up starting to fill out all the paperwork. Oh my God. That was so much paperwork I had to fill out. I think it was worse, like all the paperwork, than when I went to apply to university here in the US, to be honest, because it was just like, there were health forms I had to fill out and write letters for potential host families. Because, if you didn't know, when you go abroad, usually as an exchange student to a high school or something, you tend to live with a host family who takes you in for that time. So there was a lot to do, and the entire process, so from me in 2014, seeing my friends having like the greatest time, to actually going abroad myself, took an entire year. So I went abroad in the summer of 2015. That's when I left for the US. So that took an entire year, and so that was a lot. I got my host family that I would be living with in, I think it was February of 2018. So I was very excited. I got my host family early. Like, some people legit didn't know where they were gonna spend an entire year until like a week before they left for the US. It was wild. It's still wild to me. After I had my host family, had some more months of prep, and then I started packing up my things to go, start my exchange year in specifically August of 2018, because I think the high school that I went to started in like September, like probably most high schools in the US do. And now you might be wondering, where did I go? Where did I spend an entire year as an exchange student? I tell you, I was in Wisconsin for a year. If you don't know where Wisconsin is, it's a state in the Midwest, and I love it to pieces. Before I left for my host family, I participated in like a New York City adventure that the organization I was with offered, which was a lot of fun. So you would spend, before you go to your host family, a few days in New York City with other exchange students, and that was so fun. If I can find some pictures, I will definitely put them in here. So once I was in the US, a lot of people asked me, how did you like it? How was it? And I remember when I first came back from my exchange year, so after a year, I went back home to Germany, I was always like, it was good, it was great, it was just, and people would, look at me be like, and it was great, and I'm like, it's just so hard to put into words an entire year. It's just so much that happened. But overall, I had a great time. I had a very nice host family. They were very nice and kind people, and they were very, very good. Exchange students that I would talk to sometimes on the phone, they had like a very hard time with their host families, because sometimes people just didn't get along, and that was very tough, because some people actually ended up going home. But I thankfully just had a great host family, and was able to spend my entire year with them with basically no problems. While I was there, I was not a cheerleader, which is something that I really wanted to do, because I just wanted that whole like bow and uniform, and I just thought it was going to be great. I mean, did I want a little bit of High School Musical? Sure. Did I get it? No, because the school in Wisconsin I was going to was like the only one in the area that ended up not having a cheerleading team. I didn't even know that was possible, quite frankly, because I thought every high school had one. Well, apparently they didn't. The one I went to didn't, which was a little sad. So I didn't do that, but instead I was part of the cross-country team of my school. If you don't know what that is, you basically just run against other people for like 3.1 miles or 5 kilometers for everybody who doesn't use miles. And you like run over, country. Like, you run maybe up hills or down hills, whatever route they're basically choosing. And I actually ended up not finishing that season because I started having problems with my knees, and I also just wasn't a very good runner because I just didn't put in, I guess, as much effort into training as other people on my team, and I saw it more like as a fun way to meet people. But yeah, so I ended up quitting that towards like the middle of the the middle of the season. It's in the fall semester cross country. Then I also did things like homecoming. I participated in that, so I went to homecoming, and that was seriously so fun. I had the greatest stress. If I can find a picture and figure out how to put it in this video, like, it was awesome. I still have the stress at my parents' home in Germany, and I think I can never get rid of it because the sparkles and the glamour was just amazing, and it was slapping. So I love that dress at homecoming. I also have a fun story how I got asked to go with a dude to homecoming, but I thought he was jokingly asking, and then he was actually asking me to go, and I said no. Poor guy. I hope he's doing well these days, but yeah, that was fun. Well, I went to prom. Fun fact, I ended up going with my now husband. He was my boyfriend at the time. And then obviously, like, while I was there, one of the reasons I really wanted to go was because I wanted to improve my English, and I definitely did that. Like, after that year, like, it was on point. Well, it means on point, but it was like so much better than what it was before, and I was also so much more confident in speaking English. I was always a little nervous about speaking it beforehand. You know, overall, great experience, and I'm again forever grateful that I got to go abroad to US high school. It was just like an experience like no other. Okay, so let's get into the parts that were difficult about being an exchange student. And in case you are interested, you're seeing this video and you're in high school, you're thinking about going abroad, I think a few of these things, even if you don't want to go to the US, are applicable to like anybody who studies abroad. And I have talked, you know, over the years with like other people who went abroad, and they had some similar experiences, even if they maybe went to like England or Australia or New Zealand or just other countries. So one thing that was difficult was the language barrier in the beginning. So I obviously came there with my English, and it was just hard because I had to think a lot about what to say, and then I would say things wrong, and it was, you know, how old was I when I was abroad? 17, and so it was just mortifying when somebody pointed out that I said something wrong. You know, like, I was just like, oh god, this is so embarrassing. Like, everybody's gonna never forget this. Like, nobody cares. That's the one tip I will give you if you are like worried about the language barrier. People, at least in the US, like anybody in school, did not care if I said anything wrong. Then another thing I ran into was that obviously I'm from Germany, and you've probably heard this, but senses of humor like differ from country to country, from culture to culture. And people did not always get my humor. Like, they just didn't get it, and I would like try to make a joke, and then I just got crickets. And it was awkward for everybody, including me. So that was one thing that I was very surprised by, though, because I hadn't really thought about like humor being such a big thing that would be so different. I also had like some problems during my exchange year, sometimes connecting with people. I just felt like it was like difficult to like get into friends groups, let's say, because at this high school that I went to, it was very close knit because it was quite small, because the town I lived in, Wisconsin, was very, very small. So I'm from Hamburg, Germany originally, and that has a population of around 1.8 million people, and the small town I lived in, Wisconsin, had 2,000. So it was a very close-knit community, and it was a little difficult to like get into friends groups because people just knew each other since they were children, so they were sometimes not super open to new people, but most people, I would say, were open. It was just sometimes a little difficult. There was the problem of homesickness. So I experienced homesickness on many occasions during my time abroad, and sometimes it would hit out of just nowhere and would make me feel miserable. So that is something, you know, to be aware of in case you're out, you know, thinking about going abroad or something. It can just sometimes be very difficult. Like, it was, you know, just me wanting to cry and go home like on the next plane because I was just missing everything, you know, like my pets that my family had at the time, my parents and my siblings and my friends, and you know, it was just sometimes very difficult. So that was one thing that was hard. Um, and then there was also the issue. I loved my host family. They were extremely kind people, but just the way they were living was sometimes difficult in the sense that I lived with seven other children in that year that I was there with my host family. So my host parents originally only had three children, which I thought when I first like met them over like I think Skype calls and stuff, was like, oh yeah, we have three children, and I was like, oh, that's fun. Like they were quite a bit younger than me, but was like, that's fine. Like I can make that work. You know, I was just happy to have like other kids in the house. Because I knew about some exchange students, you know, you didn't have any host siblings, and it was just like sometimes like very quiet and a little like, you know, their host parents were at work, so they were alone a lot. So I was just glad to have kids in the house. But what then happened is, before I came in that summer of 2018, is they got four foster children which they took in, which is incredibly kind of them. Again, super kind people, really, really like being with them. But that meant that with me, there was eight under 18-year-old people in the house, and then my two host parents, and they also had one dog and five cats. So there was a lot going on in that house at every time of the day, and it was just something that is very, very exhausting, because I have two siblings myself, so I'm used to living with, multiple people besides my parents. But it was just intense because also all of these kids were obviously younger, like quite a bit younger than I was, because I was 17 at the time and they were like 6, 7, 8, something along those lines. So that was something difficult. And then another thing was also that my host family decided to move to a different house while I was there. After like my first semester in school, they decided to like move. So they moved into the countryside, which I'm happy that they got their dream home, but that meant that people were just very far away, because before the move I lived quite close to town, and after that I didn't. So it was difficult sometimes to like get around and get to people, because I was like 30 minutes in the countryside. So that was sometimes, a little isolating, because I just wanted to be able to like hang out with people and go with people. But it was difficult to get rides and like get to places because of that. So yeah, there were some things, that made it difficult, but overall, I still really enjoyed my time and it was wonderful.